She had to be because his partner's got. We found out she's got diabetes. So but he said she was still a good start. She said she'd get too big if they left her to 40 weeks. She about 36 weeks. 35. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, we know. Right. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Colne Town Council. So first of all, do we have any apologies? I think you've got some, Gina, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got apologies from Councillor Chung, Councillor Cornish, Councillor Hurley, Councillor McNulty and Councillor Wildman.
Are we happy to accept those? Yeah. Okay. Any declaration of interests on any items on the agenda? No? Good. So item 4 is the minutes of the meeting. To approve a correct record, the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday the 20th of December. Are there any issues, amendments? Anybody else got anything that they want to ask about them? No? So we've got a proposal. Can I have a seconder, please? Alice? Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 5 is public forum. Do we have any speakers this evening?
I don't think he wanted to speak.
Do you want to speak, John?
No, I was, no, I would say, I just wanted to get a view on that update on the.
Yes, and the, yeah.
I'd like to just say one thing. The reason I turned out on the cold, flippy, awful night, as you all have, is for those reasons. So I can update because I have absolutely no confidence in the sound quality of the stream service. It has been absolutely dreadful on the last, particularly the last one I chose to catch up on via the screen, and we have that confidence for tonight. So that's the reason.
All right, John. I'm sorry about that. We apologise. I think I think this way round it's a little bit better, isn't it? Someone said the sound quality coming here from here rather than having a sat at that end is better. But anyway,
we have tried to improve it by changing some of the connections. So hopefully we should see an improvement. Fingers crossed anyway.
Okay, but thank you for that feedback, John. Yes, Dorothy.
I listened to the events committee meeting last week that we held here, and that was loud and clear. I don't know.
Can I just remind people to use the microphones as well when they're speaking? Sorry, just.
Right, item 6 is to receive a schedule of payments from the 14th of December 2022 to 11th of January 2023 for approval. Is there any queries or questions on the 6A paper? No? No? Could I have a proposer then, please? Thank you, David. Can I have a seconder?
Howard, I think.
Howard, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 6B is to receive a summary of budget, expenditure and commitments as of the 11th of January. So is there any comments on that paper? 6B? No? Can I any comments from anyone else? I keep looking at David because you moved. No, it's just thorough, inquisitive. Can I have a seconder, please? All those in favour? Thank you. Now, item 7 is concerning the 2023-24 budget review. to receive a report from the town clerk giving details of the proposed budget for the following year as recommended by the Finance, Employment and Services Committee. So are you going to speak to this first, Gina?
All I will
Second.
say is that obviously this did go to FES at the last meeting. Even though the general reserves, if you look at the balance sheet, look quite healthy, we are going to end up with a deficit at the end of this year. Mainly because we've taken over 150,000 from reserves during this year. And because of that money is not sat in the current year. It is still in that reserve part, but obviously once it's spent, it will be taken from there. So we have actually got over £100,000 worth of expenditure committed, which hasn't been invoiced or hasn't been realised yet. We are expecting it to come before the end of the year. So in effect, that money will be taken from reserves before anything else can be taken out. And we do have to be left with around this, they say between 3 and 6 months worth of expenditure has to be on hand as a general rule. And that is about 350,000 for us approximately. So we do need to keep that amount in reserves. Obviously the earmarked reserves we have is in addition to that, but that money is earmarked for a certain expenditure, so can't be counted in your general reserve pot. So if anyone has any questions.
What does, did the FES speak about this? Must have gone to FES to discuss such things. Yes.
We had quite a long discussion a week ago, last Tuesday. And a lot of that discussion centred on whether we could use the reserves to prop up the shortfall that we had on expenditure. We went through quite a few scenarios, perhaps is the wrong word, but I think it was getting to the stage. I always remember, and people will remember, that in days gone by, and you were working at a firm, working for somebody, and money was getting tight, and they came on with the don't ring anybody till after, was it 1 o'clock the time? And I think that was always the sign that things were getting a bit iffy. That if you're starting to grab at small savings like that, probably means that the whole foundation is a bit on a rocky footing. We also looked at what it actually would mean for the council taxpayers of Colne. Bearing in mind that for budgetary purposes, everything is expressed in terms of a Band D property. And by far, the majority of properties in Colne are A and B. And to add a further problem to that valuation is probably by now getting on for 30 years old. So it's only people that are in new build houses that are, I was going to say penalised, maybe not penalised, but are paying the rate as of today's values. And we've had completed quite a few houses during 2022, certainly. Those, I was going to say, I'll call it off Windermere Avenue and then split slightly to the side, but however many houses that was, 70 odd, that has helped. The new houses on
Red Lane.
Yeah, there's the Red Lane ones, and also those on Notts, off Notts Lane, Deerwood Park or whatever they call it. But having said all that, the increase that is due and on the council tax that's due entirely to Cohn's bit is 10. If we take the recommendation from FES at 7.2, is £10.30 per year, which amounts to 20 pence per week. And that's a band D. People on band A and B, A would be 13 pence a week and B would be 15 pence a week. So I don't think it can be counted as being the straw that breaks the camel's back. Although in the times that we're in, anything we can do to keep it as low as possible, we just have to do. I know that Gina has tried her best to convince us that 10% is the way to go, but I think we can afford to let that ride this year and look at it again next year. And bearing in mind that when we first started on this exercise, we were somewhere towards 20-some %. So, you know, we've knocked it down round figures by 2/3 to get to the 7.2%. So I'm quite happy to move that we set the, now I don't know what we actually, do we move that we set the precept at 15328 or the whatever 100 million thousands it is?
It will be.
And I haven't got that written down in front of me.
It's the it's 754,900.
Well, yeah, sorry, as you said that, the computer shot back into life. So I will move that we precept for that 754,912, which, as I say, equates to 153.28 for a band D, which is £10.30 for the increase for the year, and an increase of 20 pence per week. So I'll move that.
Okay, thank you. You wanted to speak, Sarah. We've had a proposal there. I'll park that, as it were.
Thank you. Yeah, it was me that sort of obviously kicked this off last week, and I'd like to obviously make the disclaimer that I'm not on P&R, so therefore haven't had the I am on P&R. On FES, so therefore haven't been privy to that discussion. And the reason that I mentioned it last time, if you remember, was because I'd been to Trawden and they were lowering theirs. And then I know that Lancashire Bridge, it's not competition. No, it's not competition. Lancashire Bridge is a tiny little nibble up. And we've heard that Nelson Town Council is 0. So I think, and I know it's been work for you, Tina, and I apologise, but doing the extra scrutiny is always worthwhile. You know, even if the sound doesn't work on this and there are frustrated Birch enough family members all over Cross that they can't hear us, perhaps they'll read the minutes and see that we tried. And I just think that we're honor bound to try. And I also think that people are being really gloomy. Actually, building materials prices are coming down, aren't they? I was chatting this week, apparently building materials coming down. So I was looking at you as the guru. And I know that fuel costs are coming down, which given the heat in this town hall is probably just as well. So I know that you shouldn't be making a bet on next year, but potentially that is looking more positive. So I know it's small in the scheme of things, but there are so many things that are hitting us. I think I mentioned my mother's butter addiction last month. Just so many things are hitting so many people in different ways that we should try our absolute best. And with that, I'll hand over to David, if I may, because he has done extra scrutiny and I haven't, and I don't pretend to have that expertise.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, not got a great deal to add because obviously we, as Howard said, we had a big discussion and debate at FES. So we did go through this a lot. I think just for the others' benefit, it's really just a case of saying that clearly this year we were hit by a number of things. You've only got to look at Appendix 2, that one there,
I know, yeah.
and compare what our revised budget has become. And essentially, if you knock it all down and break it all down, you've got extra spending on a whole range of things there. You've got extra spending on Alkin coats, allotments, events. You've got Conan Bloom taking some. You've got the CCTV obviously being sorted out. If you add up all the sort of variances of that, you get to over 180,000 of extra costs, which have gone from our original budget into there, which explains that 900,000 figure in the middle there at the top. But they are the sort of things that, they're one-offs. That's what we've got our earmark reserves for. Howard said it's all about managing reserves. Not just about managing reserves, it's about managing all the different numbers in the middle there, all those sort of income and expenditure one. So we've got a fees and charges policy. We've gone through all of those. We've looked at the places where we can get a bit of extra money from. We've looked at the expenses as well, and Jean has obviously gone back and had another look at them, picked out a few things where we haven't spent in certain sort of cost categories. I think I made the point that if you have a nominal ledger that is this long, then you are going to fill it up with things. By definition, every category has to have a number. You have to put 200 there, 500 there, 300 there. Even if it's a small notional amount, they soon add up to quite a big total. And looking back at some of the history of the amounts we've spent on those areas, then it's often nil. So they're the ones where you think to yourself, well, that's going to be nil again. And obviously it's all about risk management when you come to A, set a reserves policy, and B, manage your budget through the year. So I think the summary I think you give in para 29, where you've said obviously there were a multitude of different options, and as Howard pointed out, we started off with 22. We did get the tax base increase, so that knocked 4.5% off straight away. And then we've gone down and down. We've looked at the various areas where we think we can tighten up, and it's really all about the council doing exactly what houses are doing. And I know what we're doing in our house is look at the amount you spend in certain things. If you do turn the heating off a bit, if you do eat a bit less or drink a bit less of something or other, then you're sort of managing your budget within that. And especially as a public sector body, we're given the money, so it's sort of a finite amount, except for what we could get with fees and charges. And you end up with something to say we have to sort of accommodate what we do within that. Now I know we've got a load of new things. Sarah talked about the different councils and what they're doing. We have taken on a lot. We have taken on the town hall. We have taken on Alkin coats. These are not cheap things to run. That's where the public's money goes. And I think we're making a fine fist of running these things and looking after them. And the public is taking full advantage of having them available. Places like Nelson, I believe they've taken on Unity Hall, I believe, which is an expensive thing to run, but they don't do a fantastic amount else. So I think we've got our proposed budget there. I would still like 5%. I think we can push the envelope a tiny bit there for some of those categories that we looked at last time round. But I'll just let anybody else have a chat about it as well.
David, as you being the chair of the FES.
Well, I'll come to it from a different angle to what Howard did. I'm not saying what Howard said wasn't correct, it was, but I just want to look at it from a different angle. Because a lot of us prices this year's budget, well, Yeah, no, the next year's budget, we aren't April yet, so it is still next year, isn't it? But next year's budget, a lot of the figures are a lot higher than they have been in the current year, but a lot of that is out of our control, because pushing up towards 100,000 of the increase is solely due to the tender prices that have come in, because we tendered for all sorts of different services 3 years ago. We got a good price at the time. We've had those prices fixed for 3 years. Now we've probably gone out to tender at what might be a bad time, because we went out to tender when everything had started going up or been going up for quite a while. So it has gone up a lot. And that's got to go into next year's budget somewhere. There's also certain councillors have little pet projects, which you could call growth items. They want to slot in. They want to do extra on this or extra on that, or bring something else in new. Now, out of what we had in the budget this year, without putting a reasonable increase on, we can't stand that increase in the tender costs that we've got to stick to for the next 3 years. And we know they're not going to go down, because we know what they are for the next 3 years. So we stuck with that. We can't put any growth items in, else we would need to go up certainly a lot more than the 7, because that's where the figure of, as David has said, pushing up towards 20, where we set off, and then we've come down from that. So looking at it from that angle, and looking at it from the angle of the reserves, and I think there's about 20,000 in reserves that we are over the top of the minimum figure we need to have, which is not a lot of leeway. And if we take that out, and next year things will have gone up again, not only will you have to put an increase on for next year, you'll have to put an extra increase on for the money you balanced it with out of reserves this year, because that won't be there next year. So you'll end up having to put about 20–25% on next year if you're not careful. And I think it's a slippery road to nowhere. And well, if you think back over the years, and when I say over the years, I'm talking over several years, Pendle used to have a lot of money in reserves, a lot, and they kept dipping into it a bit each year and balanced the budget, because they've got to have a balanced budget, and eventually that amount goes down. And I think you'd be the first to tell me or agree with me now, that figure they've got in reserves now is getting a bit near bone, isn't it? There's very little left. And I wouldn't want us to follow the route that they've followed and end up in the trouble that they're in, because they're in a lot worse trouble than us. And I don't think we can, if we go for 5%, I think we could go for 5%, but if we go for 5%, we won't be able to put any growth items in whatsoever. We won't be able to put anything extra in throughout the year, and we'll certainly have to take something out of the budget as it stands now. So if we're going to go for 5%, who's going to tell me what we're going to take out of the existing budget here that Jean has given us? Because if we go for 5%, something will have to come out or the budget won't balance. So what are we going to take out? And I can't think of anything to take out that the public would like us to take out. I think well, as we said, we started off the budget, we're pushing up towards 20. We said we'd try and get it down to between 10 and 15, which Gina did. And then we screwed it down a bit more and got it to 7. And I think that's as far as we can go. If we go to 5, somebody needs to tell me what we're going to take out and what we're not going to do. Having said that, I will second what Howard moved.
Right.
Thank you, David. Just a quick response then. Yes, I think you're right. The last thing we want to do is end up in the position that Pendle's in. The reserves have been exhausted. They've not really tried to, every single year dipping into reserves. You know, it's nice when you've got it. You think, oh, yes, there you go. The mattress is incredibly fat. The cash is all stuffed underneath it. Marvellous. There you go. No problem at all. Here,
We know what that's like.
have some more money for your projects, whatever. Yeah, I think you can't do that at all. And I think it's responsible that we manage it, what we've done. We have worked very hard at doing this. I'm sure Gina understands these costs more than she's ever done in her entire life. We share it with Stephen next, to carry on with that. But I think if we just keep a nice tight control on it, I think, you know, we tried our best to get it to 5, never mind, and we'll support the 7.2. So we'll go for it.
Thank you, David. Can I just ask, what are these growth projects that we might be asked to do, or?
It's mentioned in paragraph 30. You know, we want to do extra things with the CCTV, perhaps. We've got SPIDs on the agenda later. We've got the skate park.
Right.
Obviously, there's the roof. Do we just keep repairing ad hoc? Do we do something bigger? So all of those sorts of things, whether something a bit
Thank
more to
you.
consider.
Yeah, perhaps I haven't read it as thoroughly as
Gave
I
up on
should.
paragraph 30. Oh,
Right, so we've had the proposal and that's been seconded. Can I ask all those in favour to accept that 7.2%? Thank you. Anybody against? No, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So, item 8 is the meeting calendar 2023-24. Anybody any comments or anything? Yes.
just got
Yeah.
one. Do the events committee want to meet on the bank holiday that is the coronation? There we go. That's the only question I had. I'm not on the events committee anyway, but Monday the 8th, whatever it is, then
I think we're looking at trying to get it on a Tuesday, aren't we? I'll ask Dorothy as the chair. Hmm? Yeah, I know it says Mondays here, yeah. But we are. Like the last events, I think Dot, because people couldn't come and it was very poorly attended because they were doing other things. You said you were going to try and get them to be on Tuesdays rather than Mondays, and I think Nathan took that on, didn't he?
There's only one.
there's only that one.
Oh,
For other reasons, we had to revert back to one.
right, okay.
That may just be an error.
What the one on that Monday, that one, the 8th, yeah. So they are going to be on. Well, the 8th.
They're all Tuesdays apart
From
from
that-
that one by
that
the look
one,
of it.
right, I looked at that.
But it's obviously worth looking at, because technically that will be the bank holiday, won't it?
Yeah. Well, we'll nearer, but hopefully, you know, we've Dorothy's listened to what people have said that they can't come on a Monday. So, okay. So we can look at that bank holiday one. Yeah.
Are we agreeing the rest of it? Just
to look
look
at
that. Have we got a proposer?
Proposer that those will be the dates. David, can I have a seconder on the event, on the dates of all the meetings calendar? Yeah. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 9 is fees and charges. Is that you? Dan? Fees and charges, is that you? Or is it just?
As you all know, as part of the budgeting process, it was decided to review the fees and charges that the council has for its discretionary services, such as hire of the town hall, hire of the community centre, and that kind of thing. So these were actually reviewed at the last FES meeting, and the recommendations I've obviously put in this report.
Has anybody any comments about them? No?
One tiny one. Yeah, all the changes we were in there on the drinks package. What?
I forgot to take it out, the wording for the drinks. That one, yes.
There was a even tiny one. Orange is what I call juice with a lowercase j.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Are we okay with those?
Oh, No,
macros?
also there's a
Oh,
this is there's a greengrocer's apostrophe in ours on the first page.
Where, sorry?
The room hire fee covers 3 hours with an apostrophe. When it's a plural.
Where's that?
First line of thing under the, I mean, I know this week Nathan's mind's been on other things. In fact, maybe we ought to send our, I was going to say congratulations, but he'll want a night's sleep.
You want under the table already? Room hire fee covers 3 hours.
3 hours.
No, it's correct.
Yes. The use belongs to the hours.
So it covers use of 3 hours. The optimist, therefore, it's like 1 month's notice.
Well, fair
That's
enough.
told you.
Yes. 4:38 a.m. it was yesterday morning. Aria Olivia. I don't know how much she weighed though. Don't know that much yet, but
We ought to obviously send our formal congratulations.
We do, we should, yes, yeah.
Did mean to do it earlier on, but I forgot.
Okay, are we happy to do that? We know that will, from all the council, wish them good cheer and a good baby that doesn't cry a lot. Yes, yeah.
do you have a second then?
We have a seconder for that? Yeah, all those in favour? Thank you. Item 10 is SPIDS. 2.
Yeah, I was hoping that Sarah would be able to.
Though actually, David's got more information than me because I was having a Teams today with the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner and 2 officers from Pendle Council so that we can find a new way forward for abandoned vehicles within Pendle. And we do have a new way forward. It's quite exciting. So if you know of any abandoned vehicles that aren't on Derby Street or next to the ambulance hall, any other ones, please let me know, because I'm compiling a cone-wide spreadsheet of them and we're going to try the new methods. And when this meeting came to an end, David hissed at me and we swapped seats and David spoke to him about the SPIDS. So my only input here is to say that there are quite a few of those backplates already up in Cone and the villages, so we know that. Plus, of course, the money that we got for these SPIDS included the first installation and another set of 20 plates, because the idea is they are meant to move about because people become blind to them. And I think that's all I have to say because David knows more.
Yeah, just a bit more information then. So obviously, Jeannie, you've written a paper here which sets out the procedures, and then there's a new guidance note from LCC about how it works. So the Cone area budget, as Sarah said, covers the cameras themselves, the indicator devices. It covers a whole bunch of backplates. It covers the computer. It covers the protective case and all that kind of thing. Now, that was just one supplier that we got an initial quote from. There are 2 ways to do this. You either have ones with a battery in, or you have ones with a little solar array on the roof. So the solar ones are slightly bigger.
And they don't move.
And they're allowed to stay in place for longer because they're a bit bigger. Therefore, you don't want to move them quite as often. What he said, what the Deputy PCC said is that obviously he's on a campaign to encourage as many town and parish councils to take these on as possible. He's got a few flagship ones who are really bought into it, doing incredibly well with it, and we should definitely have a word with them afterwards, after this meeting, just to understand what's best practice, what are the gotchas, etc., and how they can use it and how they can keep costs down. In terms of cost for the council, I think as Sarah touched on there, the initial installation of all these sorts of kit and the training and all that kind of thing is all covered by the Cone area money. There is a risk that it might drift away. You're right, as it's pointed out in the paper. I think if we earmark it specifically for this project, then it's one of those things that we're starting to spend it, starting to use it, starting to plan it. Therefore, Pendle wouldn't be able to just take it away. So his advice was start off with maybe 2 or 3. Don't go for a 5 or 10 or anything like that. I think we had 5 in our original budget, but he said start off with 2 or 3, see how it works, chat to these other councils about good best practice, etc., and what the ongoing costs are. Apparently one of them, not too far from here, has actually he actually offers his services to other councils to go along and move things and sort things out for notional amounts. Such a fan of these SPIDs is he. So he's the chairman of that council actually. So Mary, you could have a weekend job here for you. But it's one of those ones whereby things like upgrades and all that kind of thing, what we do as part of looking at who the providers could be, and it's obviously time we updated the quote in terms of the people that supplied it to us, is to understand exactly what's involved in it, how much they cost, etc., and what do they cost as an ongoing basis. But as I understand it, the ongoing costs are fairly minimal. You know, there is, he said, do you have lensmen? I said, oh, we've got 2. And he said, well, they're the perfect people. You give them a sort of a job rotation thing. So every 3 weeks, every 6 weeks, every couple of months or so, you could move on from there to there. And obviously, based on what we think, what residents think and tell us to say, there's a hotspot, there's a hotspot, you know, there's the sort of thing we could move these cameras around. Because you're not supposed to leave them static, are you? Well, indicator devices. So you don't leave them in one place because obviously people get used to them and they go, I'll slow down there, then speed up again. So all those tips come through in terms of how to do this and how to run it. So that's why I think after the initial capital expenditure, then it's one of those ones whereby the actual running costs are fairly minimal.
Yes, Sarah.
He got one thing and ignored my hissing at him, which is we should definitely recharge Fulridge, Laneshire Bridge and Trawden for whenever they're in their area, because they're benefiting from it and they're expecting to be charged. That's been discussed by the parish councils. So at least there's some small defraying of costs there. You wouldn't just charge for the time of the lensman moving, you would build in what the insurance costs and other things. You'd create a proportion.
Have we got any idea at all what it would end up costing us? No.
As I say, it's more the people we've already got and doing it as part of their overall budget. As for additional costs, there aren't too many things to spend it on at all. And even LCC fees. I mean, he said if LCC had to come out to survey a brand new thing, you know, which isn't say a telegraph pole or a lighting column or something like that, then it's a fairly nominal amount, maybe, you know, 50 quid, 100 quid. He said, but then he said, you should kick back at them and say, well, actually, you lighting man are going to wander around all this portfolio anyway. So why not just check it while you're doing it? So he is the PCC, deputy PCC, is leaning on LCC to actually, you know, play ball and have a win-win on this one. So I think the lessons from the couple of other councils, he's given us names to speak to. One's quite local here and another one's over towards Liverpool. So if we talk to them, we'll understand what's involved.
And we do have 2 lensmen. Are they? I mean, I think in some parts of the year they're very busy, watering and things like that, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes, Dot.
I think David just touched on it then. What I was actually going to ask, could you name a couple of these flagship towns that you mentioned?
Oldham, the other one's Scary as a Brick near Liverpool.
Sorry.
Gary's Brick and Altham, you know, between Burnley
Altham,
and
yeah.
Accrington.
Altham.
Right. Anybody else got any thing to say about this? I mean, it still seems a bit, we don't do it, there needs more investigation, more, yeah. We can't sort of say, yes, we'll do it if we don't know what it entails. Yes, David?
a lot of it I don't understand, Chairman. There's a lot of unknowns in it. It mentions in one place, and I can't just find it now, but it does mention about us having to bear the costs of going round and moving them, etc. It also says we've to bear the cost of any maintenance. Now, what does the maintenance include? Because I know for a fact by asking several people, if one of these skids has a 5-year life, it has done very well. Now, maintenance could be said to include replacement at 4 or 5 years old. So who's going to pay for that? And if Foulridge and Lensbridge and Trodden did come in with it and pay us a nominal fee, are they going to pay for theirs being replaced when they want replacing? I would think there's very little chance of it. And we wouldn't be able to do much with them in summer because there's very rarely a day between May and September where we have a lensman free because they're watering all the time. Basically, if it's a dry summer, they're watering nearly all the time, and they won't be able to do much of it in summer. And I can't understand why the other 3 parishes don't want to have anything to do with it, because at least one of them, and possibly 2 of them, have a lensman of their own, and they don't want to do it. So why do they lumber it off onto us? And my other point is, I think Lancashire County Council have a cheek to even contemplate charging us for coming out and inspecting them, because let's face it, the SPIDs have a purpose, and the purpose they serve is to help towards our road safety in our area. Yeah. Who is the body that is responsible for road safety? There are 2 bodies responsible for it. One is Lancashire County Council as the Highway Authority, and the other is the police. And yet LCC saying if we have to come out and inspect something, there will be a nominal charge. And yet it's a job that they should be paying for, and a job that they should be doing and providing. They shouldn't be palming it off onto us. And I am really annoyed at them even suggesting that they might charge for coming out and inspecting something that we've done on their behalf because they can't be bothered to do it. And I've nothing more to say.
Right, thank you. Yes, Sarah.
So yeah, it's a long, sad story about Trawden actually, because Trawden bought its own SPIDs back in the day. That's partly why we've got so many legacy backplates all over the place. They had these SPIDs and they didn't. It's like always put your name tape on your child's jumper or it will go. And they didn't put, this is the property of Trawden Parish Council on it. And when the police took them down to move them to a different location, they were never seen again. Oh, where did they go? So Trawden are really furious because they paid for their SPIDs and then now they don't have any SPIDs and they feel quite cross about it. I would like to propose, oh, and also there was another reason as well, because NALC issued some guidelines on management of SPIDs that could have been interpreted 2 ways. And the Trawden Parish Council has interpreted it a perfectly valid way, which is, oh, we shouldn't do it. And then NALC reissued the guidance in a really clear way that was clear that it wasn't putting them off at all, and they accept that. So that's the other point. Totally get the point about the police and LCC and agree with it. I propose that what we do, we've got like, if we could see this report as report part 1, and this conversation as conversation 3 on this, if we could next get a full understanding of solar and batteries, maintenance, running costs, time it takes to take them down and put them back up again, because that's vital for the whole Lensman thing. If we could get all the question information and bring it to the next meeting, and we'll have conversation 4 on it. What was I going to say? And I think, and this is something I definitely hadn't thought about, that David raises a really good point. If they only last 5 years, what then? So we need to build that in as well, and we need to build it into the discussion with the parish councils as well. You know, do we see this as a 5-year project and then we all talk again? Or do we see it as a thing whereby we set aside so much money a year to keep it going so that we create a slush fund? I don't know. But I think that all of these questions need to be put in a pot. And I'm sorry, Gina, another report, and then we have discussion for next time.
Yes, Howard?
I agree with that, but one thing missing off that, these 20 odd legacy plates, where are they all? If
We've mapped them. I have them. I have a map.
I mean,
but if they're all in Trawden and Foleridge, just a thought.
I would think that, I mean, Leitcher Bridge is a real hotspot for speeding. I presume they'll want a lot of them. I don't know where they would, I don't know where they are in Colne or would be. You know, we don't need any on the North Valley or the High Street because you can't get over 10 miles an hour going up and down there. But, you know, maybe
It's Shore Street.
yeah.
We have mapped them, haven't we, Alice?
Yeah.
We know where we'd like to put them. And some of the places are, we already have back plates. And some of the places are, no, we don't have back plates. So we now need to do the mismatch. And then when LCC come, if we get to that stage, we need to give them a list, because they're bound to say weird things that we can't understand. Like you can't have it there because yeah. So we've got to give them a big long list and make them in a wanna do all of the potential so that we at least have the flexibility.
So am I understanding it right that we're going to look at this, investigate this and get as much information as we can for the next meeting, and of all the things that are on offer or not on offer, or maybe, you know, it's a bit, it's quite daunting in a way. Yes, David.
I think, Chairman, we could bring it back to the next meeting with more information. And if we can't get anywhere then, we could, tongue in cheek, say to Lancashire County Council that if they want to provide it all and put it all in place, we will manage them for a fee.
Yeah. So would this necessarily, if there's money involved, would this have to go to FES first or not?
If we've got the information in time, then I will take it to the FES committee. Otherwise, obviously, because FES committee members are in the full council, so if we don't have them in time, I don't see why the decision can't be made at full council.
Yeah. Okay.
Advantage there could be for it to go to FES first this time. It is a 3-week gap to the next FES because it's not until the 7th of Feb. So there is a chance of getting something, getting some answers back there with costings because it is 3 weeks.
And do we know who we're asking and what we're asking? Yeah.
I've got the name of one person, but if you've got any additional, if you can provide the other one, then I can,
Okay.
Altham is a very good comparison, because when I got about 3 roads in the village, you've got the bit of, in front of the little industrial estate where Fort Vale now are. There's then the road that goes up to the whatever the road number is, and that bit there. So they've only got three roads. So we're a bit comparing
Apples with pears.
Apples and pears, yeah.
Well, we'll have to gather as much information as we can.
I wouldn't, you know, he can probably do it in his spare time because they've probably only got 3.
So are we happy with that we'll investigate more and it'll go to the FES if we get it in time, and otherwise to the next full council meeting? Yeah.
Would also, Chairman, need some sort of understanding with the other 3 parishes that they were prepared to enter into a service level agreement with Colne Town Council regarding them paying for any time that was spent on the SPIDs in their area.
Yeah. We got that. Right, the next item is the Great British Rhythm and Blues Festival.
Right, yes, so we have contracted CBS as the artistic directors for next year's festival, well, this year's festival and next year's, so 2023 and 2024. We've also got the same people to do the marketing, so Scott Dawson are going to do the marketing again for the event. We have the first aid for the event has been booked. We were awaiting quotes for the traffic management. The TENS is ready to submit. Security has been agreed with the police. It is slightly more than last year because there is going to be less of a police presence at this festival. So that's been booked. We have booked the temporary bar in the town hall. So we've also got bar staff as well. So that's already been agreed. We have asked Scott Dawson to look at the programme again for the festival and the merchandise. So we're just waiting for costs and packages to come from those. The bands for the town hall have been booked. Volunteers, we have sent emails out. We've also sent emails to the universities and the colleges for anyone who may be on an event course. There is also an open event which says it includes volunteering, which is on Tuesday, 7th of February. So we may try and get a table there to speak to people. Hopefully, if we start it earlier this year, the whole volunteering process should run a lot more smoothly than it did last year. The waste, we're still awaiting a quote from David Walker at Pendleborough Council for that. The toilets we have booked, so they're in. The fencing for the toilets have been booked. The catering tender is ready to go out. That probably will go out when Nathan comes back off paternity leave. The road closure application, we're just waiting for the traffic management prices for that. And I think we've ordered adverts with Northern Life magazine. We're going to be featured in the magazines up to the event. We've also got website links and that kind of thing. So we got a package from them. So that's been ordered and paid for. The PA in the back line, we were just waiting to hear on venues. Unfortunately, because of the restricted budgets and costs going up, the council had agreed that they didn't want to increase the budget or the amount that they put into the festival on top of what was paid last year. So that was to remain the same. Unfortunately, last time we got fortunately, we got the Muni for free last year. In the hope that they would make enough money over the bar. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do that for us this year, and we couldn't come to a negotiation. So at the moment, the Muni is not part of the event. We are looking for alternative venues. Obviously, they are smaller stages, or they will be. They're not as big as the Muni. But we are currently in negotiations, and Colne Blue Society are also in negotiations to try and find alternative venues. We have looked at certain street entertainment and we're just awaiting prices for those. So we're trying to get ahead as much as we can to avoid obviously the delays that we had last time.
Well, it's time for moving on.
Yeah.
Have we got a lineup yet?
We have, I think they've got about 6 more bands to get for the Hippodrome. Other than that, everyone else is agreed, but they don't want to release it until they've got the full lineup.
What about the fringe things?
The fringe venues, Corn Blues Society have been working on. They have a list of venues that want to be part of the official fringe. Obviously, we're down as one of them. We've already got our acts booked, so I presume that a lot of the other venues have as well. So I think that's well underway.
I had a conversation with the person that's in charge of the lead person from the Little Theatre that's with negotiating with the architects and everything. And he said definitely by March he'll be able to say he's hoping that we'll be able to use the Little Theatre for an acoustic stage, which will be nice. So and he outlined what it would look like, and it would be really interesting because they're going to make a garden with them, so you can have a afternoon tea above the new building, etc. And there's a glass area that if it's not too, if it's inclement weather, you can go in there, etc. So
I suppose it's a lot of ifs and buts at the moment.
I see that the Corn Blues Society's got a fundraising event
yes,
to use that to pay for some of the bands that they're going to.
Yeah, they are doing a fundraising event and putting some local bands on.
The dresses, the club down.
Yeah,
Are they
it's
doing
at
both?
Voices as well. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's all that. Any questions? Any issues? Jonathan and then Alice.
It was going really well, the update. Thank you for that. It sounded like it's obviously got off to a good start until you said that the Muni aren't playing ball. Who owns the Muni? Right. Okay. Yeah.
Leisure
Yeah.
Trust, is it?
It was kind of like a rhetorical question in a way. Surely there's somebody at Pendle Council we can speak to try and help negotiate something with them. I mean, what's the latest sort of figure that they want? Are you allowed to say that?
The original figure was 11,300. They did look at that and revisit it and reduced it to around, I think it was 9,300. So they did take a couple of grand off. But it was still 9 grand over budget. Mm-hmm.
And what did we pay for before that? 2. We paid 2,000 for the years before.
No, I think
No.
we did pay more. Previously, I think it was around about 6,000 or 7,000, which we have paid before.
Yes, Dorothy.
Would it be helpful if I sort of try to get some negotiations going forward if I contact Alison tomorrow and being a board member?
Yeah.
I mean, you can try, but obviously we have met with Alison. She did say that the board had said that she couldn't offer it for free again. And that's sort of the figure that they came with to cover their costs.
But you need these negotiations now, don't you, further advance?
Alison did say that if they weren't going to be part of the event, that they would look at putting something on themselves.
Alice.
Yeah, it's just a comment about the catering tender. Last year we talked about recycling of materials, but it was too late to put that into the tender. I just wondered whether that was an element that has been looked at this year.
I think it was something that we said we would try and introduce this time. So I'll obviously before they go out, I'll just make sure that there's something in there along those lines.
That will be overtaken by events because it's been recently announced that I'm sure it was from the back end of this year that polystyrene and plastic cutlery, etc., was going to be banned. So we'll be fish and chips back in newspaper.
Yeah, so is anything else on the blues? I mean, I know that Pete Barton, any contact he's had, he's sent them through to the Blues Society.
Yeah, he has been doing.
He has been doing that, you know, every week if he's getting anything. But I am well, I'm not concerned. Why am with it? But that how, you know, if we do get all these bans and then if they don't sell enough tickets, how are they going to pay for the? I mean, I know that's their problem, but it's, you know, they haven't got any grants or put any things in to try and get. Well, they said it because they didn't know they were doing it, first of all, and then they didn't know something else. And well, but if I was involved, I'd be worried sick. You know, thinking I'm booking all these bands and I might not be able to pay them.
They did say though that because we have contracted them for the 2 years, that they would have everything in place for the 2024 festival. So funding, etc., giving them time to apply for that. I will say, actually, I forgot to mention in my update, we have sold about 55 full festival tickets so far.
Yes, David.
Well, I'll tell you all now what I think, Chairman. I think now it's got to January and August won't be that long at getting here. Well, it'll be 6 months, won't it? But now we've got to this stage in January and we haven't struck a deal with the Muni. And obviously bands are being booked for the Hippodrome and other venues. I think in reality, this year, we've got to forget the Muni and move on because we can't hang about and end up negotiating. All these negotiations have been going on since September, October with Leisure Trust. And when we were having difficulties financing the Blues, and we still are in a sense, she did, as a gesture, she did reduce the cost virtually to zero. Well, it was, and said that they'd do their bit to contribute towards helping make the Blues cheaper. And now they have changed their mind and want 11 grand off as well, 11,300 they wanted. And we couldn't come to a deal. And now we've got to this far into January. I think we're leaving it too late to expect the Blues people to be able to go around hunting for bands at last minute and find some. And you could end up still looking for bands in late March, early April, if you're not careful. And I think it's now got to the stage where it's too late to start looking for bands for the other venue as well. And I think we need to move on. Also, there is another advantage, and it's been said that this year for the Blues Society, it is a learning curve, and it's also a learning curve for us, and it has been for every year we've done it, because every year we learn a little bit more about it. And I think it might be better, in a sense, to have one less venue for at least this year, because then there's less to concentrate on, and it'll be easier for them to get into the swing of things and pick the whole thing up and then take it over from us. As you know, that's the general idea, isn't it? So I think it's got too late to start saying, well, let's see if we can have more negotiations with the Leisure Trust. I think that boat's gone, and I think the bridge has been burnt, and I think we've got to move on. unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, people who are buying tickets might expect two big venues, I don't know, because they're paying the same money. But there are other options, aren't there? Somebody said St John's Hall could be something, and maybe an outside stage or something. Oh, no, you won't. No, you won't. No.
I think the only thing with an outdoor stage is obviously anyone can watch it. So if it's not exclusive to those who have paid a ticket.
No.
So you can't really control that.
Unless you had it in a sort of an enclosed area.
Chairman, you have it in a venue where they can have an outdoor stage in a marquee or whatever in case it's not very good weather. And it is in a venue, and there are at least two of them. Well, there are two of them in Colne. There are two outdoor venues in Colne that have that have walls around them, a high fence around them, and they have got turnstiles, and they can control anyone with a ticket only entering the premises.
But anyway, see where we are. So that's the update, aren't we? So if we're going to start the Blues working group, so we can actually ask very pertinent questions on such things and hope to get answers. And I know they are working on, and they do want to take it over. So we need to encourage them as much as possible. And if they do have any issues, that they're not afraid to come and say to us, can we do something about whatever it is that they're struggling with.
I can say they have been coming in quite regularly and giving updates. So
when's the first Blues? We are going to get them.
Yeah, to be confirmed.
Yeah, right. Any other questions about the Blues? No? Okay. Item 12 is Colne Neighbourhood Plan.
So this is the week. I feel like just looking around the room, the inspector comes to town. I know what he looks like because I've Googled him. Haven't seen him. And we don't know whether he's coming for days. We don't know anything really. We don't know. Anyway, he's in Colne this week, he's read all the documents and he's looking at all the, I suppose, all the nubby issues that he needs to consider as part of assessing the basic conditions. With regard to the reconciliation with locality, it was realistically more onerous on me than I was anticipating. I thought that they would produce a report. Didn't you think that, Gina? Really? So essentially, we formed a table of we say this, they say this. Meeting, we think this. So some of it was like, we say this, they say this, we agree this, we agree this. They say this, we say this, we don't agree this. So the idea is that this is a document that's a quick way for him to say, right, I need to focus down on this one. They agree this, but they agree half of this, and I need to focus on this one. So we hope that we have saved him some effort and time by really highlighting those areas where we don't agree, and we've given our justification. I had a 1-hour meeting on this. I felt that it had all been agreed in advance on Friday, 5¼ hours later. Wanted a week. But we did the document. I rang up Gina because I was aware that it was school picking up time by the time, and I just wanted it gone and off our desks. So Gina rang up the lady in Pendle who's the administrator, sent it, and it went, and we've done all that we can do. Now, he said that before the examination, he'd be working on the notes. So these are extra issues that he's raising. So presumably from next week, following his visit, we receive these notes, potentially next week. And we have to be very, very speedy. We've got a fortnight to reply, but we don't know what they are yet. So there's not like we can do any more work for them. We just need to be ready. And the day they come, we just need to do our best to reply to the notes. With regard to Michael Wellock's response to the application for the upper rough, which is of course contrary to the plan, he did a first version. And I went through it with a fine tooth comb. There were things wrong with it. There was the wrong bus services. I shared all of this with Gina. And there were all kinds of things where it was a lot of technical planning. NPPF says this, Pendle Core Strategy says this, application says this. I am really confident that none of us in this room could have written this response because it is heavy in planning, documents and comparisons of paragraphs. Where he's used local things or something to do with the plan, I've created extra references. He sent me a new version of this morning. I've been very busy today, but I had a look through it and he's changed all the buses and done all the extra analysis. We've opened comment boxes. I think he's just about there. I'm hopeful that I will finish that tomorrow, have it with Gina. I don't know whether Brian's gone away. Has he gone away?
He's in Scotland.
Okay. I don't know whether anyone else wants to sense check it. Obviously, I can run it past David for the maths, but essentially at this point, I think it's virtually good to go. Now, the one thing that I sort of perhaps need to discuss with you is that obviously it's an outline only, access only application. And the person, the important statutory consultee that we've not heard from is LCC. So my sort of feeling about this is, does it really matter? Because it's covered, he's done chapter and verse about bus lanes, queuing priorities, road widths, strange gradients, parking. He's done all of that. Should we wait for LCC, or should we, if we're happy with it, because it covers all of that as well as all the planning? Essentially, it is against policy, what with the 5.6 year housing land supply. It's outside the settlement boundary. It's against policy. That's really, really clear. Do we, if we're happy with it, just submit that response from Michael Wellock to Pendle Council and never mind about LCC? Or do we wait for LCC, which might make us a bit too late for the next cone area, which is the 2nd of February, or to make it into the officer's report, and respond to what LCC say? And I seek your thoughts on this. Part of me feels if we're happy with it, send it on its way, really, rather than wait for LCC. I don't know what other people think about that.
I would have thought that obviously if he's looked at all the highway issues, etc., that LCC will just be confirming what he's written, and whether there are any additions that maybe he's missed. But in a sense, that won't matter because that'll still be taken into account with regards to the application anyway. So I think we would be, if we're happy with the response, I think we're all right sending it.
And also, of course, if we send in our version 1,
Sorry, I've just knocked you off.
we send in our version 1 anyway, and the LCC comes out a day later, we can just tag on an extra email, say, yep, we agree with all that. Or we add on this and we applaud this, we condemn that, we disagree with that. You know, we can do a second response. So
What do we think? Oh, David, yes.
If there hadn't have been a planning application at this stage, we wouldn't have been waiting for a response from LCC anyway. So we would have been sending it in without a response from LCC because there wouldn't have been one as such, would there? No. So I would just send it in. That's my gut feeling. You can't wait forever for, and it might not be. Let's face it, when we get it from LCC, it might not be helpful anyway.
Are you trying to speak, Howard?
David just stole what I was going to say, that LCC wouldn't be very helpful. I doubt that they really know where Lidgett and Old Skipton Road are half the time.
Yes.
No, I know they do, because Ash took them on a complete walk around and they had a lavish, they didn't even drive cars. They walked the whole area. They walked from the top of Castle Road to Windermere Avenue. And so Ash, as the county councillor, pointed everything out, which I'm very grateful for. I don't think we can do more than that. We're not looking for any special favours. We're just looking for them to look at it with clear eyes. And we just hope that it's the right result from our perspective. The other thing that I ought to tell you about is the email tag that has happened between Neil Watson and our reconciliation consultant. And Gina and I have just kept out of it, haven't we, Gina? We've just kept out of it. And every single day there's been a new email, and it's not to do with us. Essentially, Dave Chetwin believes very strongly, he really believes this, that we went to Regulation 16 and that is a consultation. And now the inspector is looking at that consultation. So he believes that the consultation is not at an end. It's not at an end until the examination's at an end. The consultation, although we can't write is in a sense still live because it hasn't been assessed. So there are these things called the gunning principles, and Gina and I have had chapter and verse on this. And so this chap, Dave Chetwin, backed by locality, so it's not just this is one man's view, this is backed by locality. Locality have signed this off, and they are the government advisors on this, so we can take some weight to it, you'd think. Though I'm not an expert, but essentially what the gunning principles say is, if you try to determine something that other people are still in the process of having their voices heard on, if you try to determine it before their voices have been heard, i.e. before the examination is at an end, then you are wrong, because the people can't do the consultation and come to the end point with the examination completed. Neil Watson says, I've consulted a barrister in Leeds. You are totally wrong. This isn't a consultation. The consultation finished on the day the consultation finished. We've now moved on from the consultation. And all I can say is that Neil Watson says that. Our guy says, no, you're wrong. Neil Watson says, no, you're wrong. Our guy says, no, you're wrong. And they each give more information each time. And Gina and I are just CC'd in. We have nothing to add to that. What we have done is we submitted the formal letter from locality to the administrator at Pendle, to the examiner, so he can view it. And we can't do anything more than that. We've just put that in his hands. So the next thing for the application is the 2nd of February. It'll come to Cone Area without any conclusion. Those of you that have been borough councillors have seen that. It's always a bit, I think it's suboptimal really, because you get loads of words in the report and then you don't get, this is what the advice is at the end. So then we'll have that big discussion on the 2nd of February, and then it'll come to development management, which is Tuesday the 21st. So we've said to Pendle Council, we don't think that the whole of Lidgett and beyond, even if you just count Lidgett and beyond as a thing, plus the councillors, can fit here. And they've come back and they've said apparently 70 people can come in here. But I remember last time we had 400 in the Mooney. We've heard that the Mooney is busy on that Tuesday. So we have asked whether we could look at hiring the Hippodrome, because I just honestly don't think you can get all the people. There were hundreds of letters on the portal. I don't think you could get all the people in here for the determination. I genuinely think that you couldn't. I don't know what the rest of you think about that, but that's my belief.
Okay, anybody, any comments? Howard?
What about St John's? Might be cheaper than, because of the rake in the Hippodrome, it might be difficult for people to.
Oh, no. Can,
Thank you, Sarah, for all the work you've done on this.
Mm. It's been going on for, well, years and years and years. Oh,
I
you're
was-
nothing if
I was-
you're not, you're nothing if you're not.
I was invited to Keighley Town Council on, when was it, last Wednesday? Last Wednesday. And they had their kick-off meeting for their neighbourhood plan. And I didn't want to make them sad. I didn't want to say, oh, it's a long road. So I tried to be really optimistic, and I did lots of sort of happy slides and pictures of Lake Burwain, and I just did lots of happy things and tried to be really jolly. And then the chap after me said, I've been doing it for 9 years and I'm coming up to regulation 14, like this. And they were all like, oh no.
Doing a village as well.
I know. And then at the end, they all said, oh, thank goodness you were more cheery than the chap at the end. So it's quite funny.
You just have to tell them to be tenacious.
That's it. That's essentially
That's
it.
it, yeah.
Yeah, it is worthwhile doing. I genuinely believe it. And if you just look, I mean, I know we've been talking about this application, which is really unfortunate that it's come at the same time as we've gone to examination. I say it's unfortunate. Obviously, it is planned. But if we leave that to one side entirely, because that's not why we did the plan, if we look at everything from trees to close bordered fences to takeaways to buses to heritage buildings, if you look at the design code, it's been, I know it's been awful, but it's been worth, I think it really is worthwhile. And when it is made, when that plan is made and it's part of Pendle's Cones planning law, people who at the moment don't realise what it is will realise what it is and be pleased, but we're just a bit away yet.
Yes, David.
The meeting that Sarah's talking about, when is it?
Which, the development management?
The one in the one that,
The 21st.
No, it's
Oh,
Cone areas on Thursday the 2nd. They couldn't get the money for that, so they're looking at the Hippodrome for that one. The one on the 21st, Tuesday the 21st, the development management one, the Mooney is available. I've just checked my emails there. So it could well be on the Mooney on the 21st and the Hippodrome on the 2nd, but they're just confirming that.
Considering where most of the people may be from who would want to attend the meeting, and you said there could be 100, why do you not see if you can ask Park School to facilitate the meeting? Because most of the people who are interested in going would probably be from that more immediate area.
that's a really good idea, David. I was so fixated on Central Cone. I never thought of that at all.
so that's an extra idea. Is that everything? We're happy with that yet? Shall we move on to the next item, which is planning? The first one is 22/0854/ADV. It's Beauty Spot Warehouse 14A Market Street. And it's for a display of a non-illuminated sign at front of building. Yes, Sarah.
Oh, I'm furious about this one. I call this in for enforcement. This is one of our non-designated heritage assets. You'll recognise it as the Burton's building on the corner. So it's all Art Deco. And if you cast your mind back, and they've got the before and after photographs, it was all sort of black marble and very cool and sleek and deco. And they've basically covered it with a whole load of pink and grey, I'm not sure whether it's plastic or wood boarding. And they've written the most glib justification for it, saying it really improves the building. And you say, oh, really? I don't think so. So I think it is awful. And I think it is contrary to everything that our conservation area is about. It is in the conservation area. And I've called it in. I think it's absolutely horrific. And I hope that you agree with me.
I think Howard wanted to say,
Well,
he's been looking at them all today.
I think part of the problem is the businesses that were in there before also had plastic or different signs above it. So it is pink and it's not very nice, but
They do show it.
yeah, I think that before is misleading. Because before, I'm trying to think who used to be in, there used to be like a whole food shop and what have you in there. And I'll stand on our heads. Where that shows it, I'm not sure that is marble, but anyway, above there was, green signs that said, I think it was the whole food place that moved into the market. And then after that, it was a sort of cheap shop, which had a green sign above it. So the last time it was like that, I think is some time ago. I think that is when they've taken off the existing sign and do it. But yeah, I don't like the pink sign anyway, but
the signs are bad as well in the thing. I think we've got a picture of that.
Is that next to Waltham's?
yeah, it's what was, it was a health food shop, it was
It was a health food shop and then it was.
it was like
Yeah.
a cheap shop, wasn't it, selling?
And then it was a
It's-
vitamin, like a health
Yeah.
food thing.
Sides are all bad.
Horrible.
And it's an oversized extra D. Basically.
Yeah,
What do we do all that down?
not nice.
It says it's a massive penny.
Oh, it doesn't.
That's it.
Well, it's written by somebody in Adford or something, I can't remember.
So are we saying we don't like it? It's,
I like it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure on what grounds we can object in view of the signs that were there before.
Alice wants to speak and then Dot.
I believe the bid did a booklet about what was appropriate in code. Oh, okay, which is a bit disappointing, isn't it? Okay, I don't like it and it doesn't enhance cone at all.
Dorothy,
On.
you're on now.
Well, if you look at both sides of that stretch of Market Street, they're all quite smart,
Yeah,
especially the opposite side. They're all quite smart. And that will just stick out like a sore thumb and spoil it
it will.
altogether. It's just a nice little stretch. And it always has been. Nice shops, they all keep them well and
So what we're saying we hate it, we don't like it.
I think we give reference to the fact of whichever non-designated heritage asset it is, note that, and say our plan is emerging, it's at examination. And I think that we give a link to the conservation area shopfront guide, which again is part of our neighbourhood plan, which is emerging. And we say that it contravenes the, whatever it is, can't remember, don't know, the Pendle Council, what's it called? What are those initials? SP.
SPD,
Supplementary planning documents on shop fronts within conservation areas. And I just, from my perspective, the fact it's oversized, it's got garish colours, and they've clad the sides, which were marble and weren't clad before, is they're the worst elements.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I know. Yeah. Are we happy with that? We're saying we don't. want- Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Great. Yeah, everything's great. Right, the next one is 22/0856/FUL. It says extension granted. It's Green End, Small Holding, Lenches Road, Colne. It's certain of a static caravan to be used as a permanent dwelling with associated landscaping. Anybody want to speak about this?
What I'd like to say, and what I'm allowed to say in public, are slightly different. It's just ridiculous. There are lots of bits of jumbly stuff round there. There's been a long history of people parking cars and goodness knows what for the last 10, 15 years. You can't really see it on the size there, but it's just well, it looks like a caravan on bricks. If you read the application form, it's all very vague on what does it say? Foul sewage, I think is the thing, and they just put a question mark, which is a bit worrying. There's no question, there's no answer to really how any surface water would drain away. It's just the wrong thing in the wrong place. Bearing in mind that if he was that keen on a caravan, he's only got to move a few yards up and on the opposite side of the road, there is the existing Prospect caravan park site, whatever you want to call it. It's just, it doesn't, I mean, look at it, it's just appalling. It just doesn't.
Is it the same chap that used to drive it out on a tractor?
Yeah,
It is the same chap.
that's Bert, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is that him?
I mean, some people say it isn't.
Well, either way, whoever it is shouldn't come into it. It's the principle of it. And
Depending on who it is, to me, it will raise other questions.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, I agree.
it's not the right place for a static caravan. There are huge questions about how it will deal with sewage and the rest of it. Don't know where he's going to get his electric from, and yeah, it was just object because it is totally an unsuitable site for it anyway.
Well, doesn't he just live? A few yards down into grass?
Chair, I repeat,
No, it's not.
the applicant could be Donald Duck or Walt Disney or Bing Crosby. That carries no thing. It's
I
not
know
the
it doesn't
person.
carry
it's-
any planning weight, but it's interesting if you know who it is, don't you? Yeah. Right. Anybody else want to have a say about this?
I've had quite extensive correspondence with the planning officers on this. All I can say is there's a lot of mystery. There's lots of mystery. And actually, if you read what other residents have said, then that confuses you even more. Yes, the foul sewage, that's also mysterious. Is that going to vaporize? There isn't a right to live on the site at the moment. There's the question of whether this is for one application or is it actually for a lawful certificate and another one. there's the question of access. There are so many unanswered questions that all we can say really as Colne Town Council, in my view, is that we cannot ascertain what is the current situation for the third of an acre. What really is the full intention, i.e. is it for 2 properties, each on the 6th? We don't know what's going to happen with all the details, such as the access and the sewage and so on. And all of the other things, which are the allegations from the other residents, as already been said, we put to one side, but it just adds more confusion to the need. It's outside the settlement boundary as well. So you could say, why is it needed when we have a 5.6-year housing land supply? After all, we've just asked a planning consultant to write something on that for us. So the planning officers are fully aware of it. And in essence, all we can say is so many unanswered questions.
Chairman, I think it's an inappropriate application, inappropriate place.
Yeah. We'll put that. Yeah. Next one, 22/0839/FUL, Blakey Hall Farm, Red Lane, Colne. It's extension to the side and rear of the holiday accommodation to form a single dwelling. Yes.
So again, I've entered into correspondence on this one, and I'd forgotten there was one in the middle, and perhaps people who are Vivery councillors will remember. So essentially there was a building, and the building, there was an application, which I do remember, the first one, to become 2 letting bedrooms for a B&B business. I remember that one. Then in 2021, there was one in the middle, which I had forgotten, don't remember it at all, which was to convert the 2 letting bedrooms into a house. Looking at the rest of you, do you remember that one? David remembers that one. I don't remember that one. And now we've got this one, which is a bigger house. And it's all what I'd call UPVC to the max. It's 20 metres from the listed building. And the planning officer says, well, it's not in the curtilage of. And now I'm not so sure about this because it's in the same ownership of. So if it's in the same ownership, it stands to reason to me that it's the same property. It's a bit like me saying that my coach house isn't in the curtilage of my house. It very much is. It might be 20 metres from my house as well. The thing that makes Pendle Planning sort of quite relaxed about this is that there's a large hedge. So I've been sent a picture of it with a large hedge, and they said, well, it's all right because there's a large hedge. But then I can't help but think, supposing there wasn't a large hedge. I mean, I suppose you could condition that the fact the hedge stays forever. I don't know. But to me, 20 metres isn't very long. I mean, probably it's as long as this room, isn't it? I don't know. Right, okay. I'm not very good at meters generally. But it's not far though, is it? It's not far. Right.
It is, really.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, you get a 2-metre stick for COVID, it's quite a long way.
Okay. Well, that's just, what I say to you. So it's up to you. But I worry about the fact that I think it probably is in the curtilage of. And it's a bit of planning creep, isn't it? Because you've got the 2 bedrooms, the house, the bigger house, and none of it's sort of listed building worth, if you know what I mean.
I'm not sure it isn't in the Greenbelt either. I'm not sure where it goes down that. Well, if it's in the Greenbelt, as I suspected it was, there are rules about it shouldn't be more than 50% of what's already there. What's already there was the dairy, I think, when it was a working farm. Part of the justification is that the owners don't want to run it as a B&B now, and it's all very difficult. But honestly, it must have. Well, it's difficult to see at a distance, but the part on the left of it, I'm sure that nearly doubles the floor size. And Sarah's right. there was an extra little bit of an extension on the existing buildings. It was either last time or not that long ago anyway. I just think we should object to it. I mean, it is to say, yeah, like to say it's not in the curtilage is being slightly splitting hairs, and we should say it's too large, it's in the wrong place, it detracts from the, I mean, look at the front entrance to it, detracts from the existing listed building that's there. I think we should say we object on those grounds.
Anybody else, anything?
Yeah,
Things the green belt.
yeah. So I think it falls down on the fact that it if it had been the farmhand's cottage for the last 100 and whatever years, and they now wanted to sympathetically put that on, whereas in fact when it stopped being a dairy farm they changed it to basically bed sits, that there'd be a bit of an argument for it, but it's not, and I think it's just the wrong thing in the wrong place.
Are we happy?
And it's too big.
Are we happy to accept that? And those are the reasons. Can't remember last time I went, but I know they had a nice proportioned building there, an old one. But that's not an old proportioned building, is it? Right. The next one is 22/0858. Mazda Arlington Energy, land to the southwest of Phillips Lane Works, Phillips Lane, Colne. And it's about implementation for a gas-powered standby generator facility of planning permission. What does that mean?
I think that was the previous application. Was it not?
What do they want to do then? Is it just?
If you read through it all, I think the top and bottom of it is they've never fully implemented the permissions they've got.
All right, okay.
And
Okay.
I think they're renewing existing permissions that have expired.
yeah,
Okay. No comment then. The next one is 22/0860/FUL 62 Albert Road, Colne. It's a change of use from wine bar and living accommodation to dog grooming spa and commercial business service space. Which ones is that? Is it where
number 62 was?
number 62,
Oh, right.
which before it was 62 was JJ's. Before it was JJ's, it was something else, and before that, it was Gerard's.
bookshop?
The county say that there's no problem with the parking. I'm not sure that that's right, but it's bringing
A business.
a business back there. It seems fine to me. There's one bit that says tea room. I don't think they mean a tea room. I think they mean a brew room for the people that work there, because it doesn't look big enough to be a tea room.
Okay. Yeah, no comment. The next one is PND 26520. Clark's Telecom, Butway, Spring Lane.
And it just has occurred to me that it is another one of our non-designated heritage assets. So we probably should state that, because of course in the description is what's important
Number
about it,
62.
like the curved windows.
yeah.
They're not planning on changing them,
No.
but it's just like being sure.
Yeah, I agree. Are we all happy with that? Yeah, put that, so that it's proposed radio mass station installation. Yes,
Both of them together.
it's what? Are they
It's 520 and 0018 are the same thing.
All right. Are they in the same place? Yeah.
So I'm here sort of on behalf of Kieran, really, because he's been in a lot of correspondence with these people. First of all, they wrote him a really lovely letter. They wrote to all the Highbury councillors going, oh, hello. We've looked at all of these places, all of this stuff and we will take your call anytime. We're here to help. So he's straight on it. No. So then he sent an email. No. So he sent another email. No. He sent another email saying, you're ignoring me now. And they're blanking him. Because I think that they were just thinking they could send this out so they look good. And they've not replied. So Kieran has called it in because, of course, there is the terrible one, which sort of appeared by stealth on the roundabout.
Burnley Road.
Burnley Road. And I've read all of this document and it doesn't make any sense to me. They say it needs to be so enormous because it needs to be above things. So why put it in a dip? I don't understand it. That surely they've discounted Hartley Square where there are masts already, which is a high point. Why have they discounted Hartley Square? These are the questions that we want answered. They've not said it in the document. They've just said, we've discounted these. And you think, well, these are better places. And if you look at that little area, it's really well tended. I don't know whether it's Cone and Bloom or guerrilla gardening, but it's really well tended. There were lovely little raised beds and cobbles and everything. And they want to stick this massive thing. And also that whole road that's above it with the back-to-backs, it's another one of our non-designated heritage assets. So it would affect the setting. So I think we've got quite a lot to go at. They haven't been responsive to the ward councillors like they said they would. They haven't given a justification as to why they wouldn't choose the high points of the town. They are trashing a loved little bit of amenity within the street, and they're potentially marring the setting of one of our non-designated heritage assets. There could be more, I don't know.
It's at the bottom of Lancaster Street, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
Hyde Park.
Hyde Park, yeah, which is like quite oldie worldy and
And
Quite a heritage street.
yeah.
Lancaster's, yeah, and I assume by the back-to-backs you mean Spring Lane.
Yeah.
No, it's sometimes people have not that you're from that they're down south, but people down south sometimes call terraced houses back-to-backs, which is absolute bonkers. And to make matters worse or better, it is the site of one of the 100 or so remaining Edward VIII pillar boxes.
Pillar boxes.
And this,
It's the bottom of Jeff Cranby Street.
yeah, well, it shows on the plan that they've got that it's between two of the things.
So it's two of the non-designated heritage assets there. It's Lancaster Street and the back-to-backs on Spring Lane.
And Edward VIII.
Yeah, and the other
Yeah. Post box.
Yeah.
Yes, David.
The problem is, Chairman, if an alternative site can't be found, as of right, they do have the authority to install it on private land or on the highway with highway permission. And as far as I know, they've got LCC permission to put it there. How do we stop it?
No, well, you're not wrong, David, but this is happening up and down the country, and councils are sort of pushing back and giving a bit of scrutiny. And the fact they've just written this rather glib document saying, oh, we discounted these areas. Let's hear their justifications, actually. Let's properly delve into this. And, you know, if it's forced on us, we can at least look at the residents and say, we tried.
Okay.
I can understand why they won't want people to go fence. You cannot cover that area down there for a reason. There's just no sense to get there.
Okay.
We've had it with the CCTV site, haven't we? It's a similar thing, I would
But have you seen the map with all the places they've considered and discounted? Yeah.
Have they though?
There is another map down. Nobody has got there about it, because I don't think anybody can see. But there is another map on the top of the building. Right up to Spring Lane, actually, at the end of Craigslist, there's one on there. Because every so often, if you dismantle it, do some work on it, and you close the road up for a drain.
Makes it even more odd than, doesn't it? Well, this is 5G.
But from where they put it, and I've actually made it go out properly. From where they put it, even to the top of it, you will not be able to see it from where the cottages are. It's from where,
Okay,
because of the curve, so you can't see it.
okay.
But we still want to know, don't we? We all had to put what we said. Yeah. Yeah,
It might be better somewhere about it.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, well,
It might be better, and we can say to them, we don't want an horrible grey white, or take like a couple of white walls, strike and back, they do some shade of green, maybe. I don't know. Don't have to be white, does it?
No, no, no. But it is a nice little area there, isn't it? And it would spoil it. This time. Right, the next one is 22 stroke.
It's not.
So from those comments, David, you're not opposing as putting a caveat on the planning application, are you?
Well, I think it could be, I don't think it must be a lot of white, really, thing, it wants to be some of them blend in. I mean, whatever you put up, you can control it to a certain degree, with bit, you know, with colour.
Just consider the colour and consider other locations properly in
Yeah,
consultation.
with the council, yeah, yeah,
Like the ward councillors.
yeah.
I think you're right, I think it'd be better on that way, not near houses and so forth.
But at the end of the day, one thing you've got to consider, Chairman, is, and I know it's not really back in the bag somewhere, but what you've got to consider is everyone who sat in this room at least has a smartphone. Everybody wants faster and faster signals. And the equipment's got to go somewhere, haven't it? Otherwise, you're not within range of one and you don't get the signal. So you've either got to do without your fancy gadgets on your phone where you need an even faster signal, or you've either got to do without that, or you've got to put up with these things being put up somewhere. I guess. Being realistic.
That is somewhere, yeah.
But the trouble is, this is the network 3. I just hope that you know, Vodafone, O2, Uncle Tom Cobley and all aren't going to come along and say,
Well, we can't. Because there is a policy whereby
Do they-
all these phone companies, if there is an available mast in the area, they've got to share a mast in the transmitter zone. There is a policy for that, they've got to do that.
Alice,
I really don't think it's in the right place as the proposals are. It is too near our assets. There are plenty of places I would have thought on Vibery Way, like McDonald's, that little area there. It seems a little bit of a dead area. But obviously I'm not technical minded, but I think we should try and propose other sites.
that aren't near houses, yeah, you know. Right, okay, we got that. Right, 22/0023/VAR. It's former Spring Gardens Mill, Spring Gardens Road, Colne. It's a variation of condition to the design and layout of Unit 5. Have you any comments? Have you looked at these, Alice?
This was a new
It's an extra one.
yeah, I only got it today, so I haven't looked at it. You know my views on that whole complex. So I can't see that there's going to be any improvement to the design, or they can't make it any worse.
It's fine, it's like one of
I think
The-
smaller units.
the actual application form says remove drawing blah 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 replace it with drawing blah, 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 renumbered and amended Unit 5, which was Unit 8. So I think now if you look at it, the big one in the middle is 1 and 2, and it goes 3, 4, 5 in the bottom right hand corner, 6, 7, 8. So I think what they've done is just made it a bit more logical. I'm on a guess, but the principle of the development has been agreed. I think it's just altering the layout a little bit. I mean,
Oh, nothing to say, have we?
Oh.
No. No, three numbering. Right. Well, I think that's it. Anything else that we need to discuss? No, that's it. Well, no, it's not.
Go through.
I can't remember. Right. Yeah. So have we had any correspondence received?
There was just the outcome of the planning application for Park. Was it Park? Permit
Oh.
Academy, which I sent through via email anyway to everyone. So. You did. I have. Yeah, I have sent an email. I have been asking for this to be replaced for months. For some reason, I keep saying, yeah, it's getting sorted, and then it never seems to happen. So I've sent an email to try and find out what's going on.
What about items for future months' agendas? Anything?
We've got these bids.
Speds, yeah. Anything else that we need to keep an eye on and bring back? Anything else?
I think I need to potentially come in and meet, this is just a separate thing really, the lady who, is sort of creating the campaign around Treasure Our Town. I don't know her name.
It is Kayleigh. Unfortunately, she's off at the moment, ill. But yeah, it's
Okay.
yeah. As soon as she's back in, I'll get her to arrange something with you.
Date and time of next regular meeting, that'll be Tuesday the 21st of February at 7 p.m. So can I thank you for attending on this terrible night?
Tuesday 21st.